What was the best night of comedy that you've ever experienced, Bob?
The best night of comedy that I ever experienced. I could say that I've been around some great nights in stand-up comedy. All right. But if one really stood out, it would have to be the infamous "I ain't scared of you, motherfuckers."
I ain't scared of you, mother.
I mean, because of just it's so many stories to how that all came about.
Yeah.
And I even watched a documentary called "I Ain't Scared of You." It kills me when I see these documentaries and they don't ask me to speak, because I've been there with some of this stuff.
Yep.
Even like right now, John Legend is supposed to be producing the Bernie Mac story. You have to remember, I'm the beginning of Bernie Mac's professional career. You know what I mean? When it really became, on that audiobook, he's saying it. But when I tell you that night of "I Ain't Scared of You" was, like I said, it was Bernie's second time on Def Comedy Jam. Because the first time I had to take him out of the show that he performed and put him on another show because he had killed it with Stir It Like Coffee and Take Me Out to the Ball Game. That was his first performance. The second performance was "I Ain't Scared." And the reason that happened is because I would shoot 5 comedians, and I never knew what I might get out of 2, 3, and 4. Okay. But I knew that number 1 is going to kill him, and number 5 is going to kill him. In this particular night, I believe I had Chris Tucker up top and Bernie Mac on the bottom. Okay. So now you already got fire, right? So the second dude came on and was real lukewarm. Then the next 2 did very well. So when Bernie came on, because everybody remembered him from his previous performance, they was already hyped for him. But then Bernie went on to look at the audience, while they was all clapping and stuff. That's what made it so dope. He got basically a standing ovation before he hit, and he's standing there, and then he goes, "Y'all don't understand. I ain't scared of you." And that just took it to a whole nother place, because everybody's minds went back to early in the game when everybody was looking at this comedian like, I can't believe he's thinking like this. So then Kid Capri and Bernie hosted my tour, right? Martin had his own thing going on, and I took Reggie McFadden, Adele Givens, Bill Bellamy on tour, and whoever else was going to be a part of it. And whenever we would be somewhere and Bernie be hosting and he'll start messing with somebody, Kid Capri, he'll say, "Kick it," and Kid would be doing it. So that was something that we had already had going on. So when this happened, it was like a vaudeville act. It was the most, and it was just so exciting, because even after the show, it never stopped, because we would go back to the hotel around the corner and everybody would congregate. Then everybody would go up to rooms and stuff. And I had a suite up on 43rd Street, and the comedians who, would like the Blaze or whatever, they would all be up in the room. So remember Angela Means by Felicia from Friday?
Yeah.
She comes to the door, right? And we hear a knock. We don't know if it's security or whatever, right? We hear a knock, and it's her. And she opens up the door and she goes, "What's wrong? Y'all look like somebody in here got booed or something." Oh my God. When she said that, the whole room, the dude
he was
in the room. Yeah, man. And so it all the way went back to the theater. It was just it was one of the moments.
Crazy night.
Yeah.
You knew you had gold.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, this is Mike, and you're watching the Reelblack podcast, and we got a very, 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 very special show for you today. With us is a good friend, a long lost friend who we reconnected with via one of our last live streams. And I'm going to bring him up now. You may recognize him. It's Mr. ERIC PAYNE.
Or maybe not. Or maybe not. Much older with the white goatee, with the baldy covering up the cap, maybe not.
Well,
Mike?
if you take it way back into the era of the troglodytes,
right? Trog, Jimmy Castor Bunch.
Then people may recognize you. Was it Juice?
Juice gave me my street cred.
Okay.
I mean, School Days was the first one to put me out there, widespread or mainstream. But Juice with the younger cats, with the upcoming hip hop generation, that's what put me out there, and it gave me my street cred. I know I got it when several hip hop stars approached me. I had a film company called Drop Squad Pictures. We produced a film called Drop Squad along with Spike Lee, starring Ving Rhames and Eric LaSalle. And we had a company office down in Soho. And one of our partners, one of our affiliates, was doing something with Method Man at the time. And he came in the office and he saw me. He was like, "Yo, what's up? What's up?" And I kind of forgot, that a lot of these cats saw Juice. The same thing when I met Biggie Smalls, Christopher Wallace in L.A.
Oh, wow.
With Kadeem and Darryl Bell, my buddies from School Days who started a different world. And we went to see a Clippers game that when Allen Iverson was in town in Los Angeles, and a lot of people were in town to see AI play. Common early in his career, Biggie Smalls, a bunch of people. And we were all back in the back area when they come out saying hello. And we're all standing there, and these guys come speak to Kadeem, Darryl, and me. And Big was like, "Yo, what's up?" I'm like kind of surprised, didn't think that he really would recognize me or forgot, basically. And I was like, "Hey, Big, what's up? Where's Little C?" And my buddy that was new to the scene, new to kind of hanging out with us, he was like, "Wow, Biggie Smalls came up to you." I was like, "Yeah, But it was kind of cool to get, the younger set, to get the younger heads always.
I hear you. Well, these are the kind of conversations that we've been having off camera, and hopefully we can bring them on camera. Yeah. Trading war stories, talking about the good old days,
and the link to the new days, because I did an episode of Raising Kanan with Omar Epps, and the crazy thing is Raising Kanan from the time period takes place during the time that the movie Juice came out in the in the 80s. So Omar and myself are actors in a movie in the time period of the TV show that we're acting in as actual characters that were living during this. It was like really a weird kind of
time warp
thing,
That's cool. Well, that's not the only show that you're in, right?
Right. I'm getting ready to do an episode. I got a recurring role on New Amsterdam and the medical show on NBC. And I'm supposed to go back on the 14th and shoot another episode. And this is just kind of one of those recurring roles where I come in and shoot a line here or there in. But, it's a work and it's recurring and, it goes on the resume and it's current work that, work begets work.
So. I hear you. So we're going to chop it up tonight with one of your good friends.
Yeah.
I'd love it if you gave him a proper introduction before we bring him in.
Well, yeah, I mean, this guy is, I really think, the one who is the real founder of Def Comedy Jam, the real founder of comedy, really in the New York, New Jersey area, the immediate Manhattan, New York City area, from my perspective. I came home after shooting the movie School Days, right? My cousin told me about a comedy club that was actually down the street from where my father had his own business in Newark for 18 years. And this area, about a block down, which used to be deserted, was now converted into a bar, a nice little kind of decent place for people to hang out. And they had a comedy night once a night. And a guy that was producing it by the name of Bob Sumner, who I kind of knew in college a little bit, or the high school years, because he was at Seton Hall and I lived close to Seton Hall. And Bob was producing these comedy shows, and he's responsible for helping launch the career of Bill Bellamy, amongst a great many other people that we're going to talk about tonight. But every comedian knows that Bob Sumner he's the godfather of comedy of our generation, certainly, I would say, and helping to move a lot of careers along, And you're holding up the Def Comedy Jam All-Star Series. he was responsible for me coming to the first couple of episodes of Def Comedy Jam. I was in there based on the strength of Bob, making sure I had tickets, and it's a good brother. And right now we reconnected. He's trying to give advice to a lot of new and upcoming comedians on one of the social media platforms. And, I joined him in it. He has a room called No Egos. And that's what it is, sharing information, helping people to understand the business, kind of a lot like you do, Mike. You exchange information on Reelblack TV about Black history, really important about our people, but also about the business. We get to share stories and hear behind the scenes and stuff like that. I eat it all up, man, about our culture, about the business itself, but certainly as it relates to us as Black people, so I give all props to those who came before me and those who are working to come after me. So there's my boy, Bob Sumner, before I get off into some other stuff.
Okay. All right. We're going to add him now. Welcome, Bob.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Doing good. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Your name has been bouncing around in my consciousness for decades, from seeing the credits of Def Comedy Jam. Now I have to pitch a bitch. I got these from Time Life. These are the latest reissues of the Def Comedy All Stars, and they stretch the picture out so it fits the widescreen. I want them in the original format, so I can't get rid of my old copies. So that's my only complaint. But just to give it a plug, and we'll give the Laff Mobb a plug as well.
Man, I don't know nothing about nothing.
Yeah, I know. There's no money goes into your pocket for these things.
I'm just trying to figure out. Every now and then I get a check from somewhere, and I don't know where it's coming from these days. My work was done with that from 92 to 90, 91 to 97, I guess. I don't know.
But some of the names have got to ring a bell. Martin Lawrence, Steve White, Derek Fox, Yvette Wilson, Joe Torre, Donnell Rawlings.
Those
more.
Names. Yeah, it's names. The funny thing about the names is some names ring a bell, and some names you'd be like, damn, they did Def Jam. It'd be like that. I told you I did Def Jam.
You were responsible. You're the talent coordinator.
Pretty much.
Hey, Bob, talk about your beginnings. And I guess it's a question I never knew. What got you started into? I know everybody was kind of doing the promoting thing. That was a hustle thing back in the day. But why the comedy, stand-up comedy? What piqued your interest along those lines?
It's quite interesting because just during this shutdown, I've actually done a couple interviews that's going to be airing, I guess, in the next couple months. One I've just I completed with the A&E network, and another one with CNN. And the one with CNN, when we were done, the guy who was interviewing me, he said, it's interesting because you're the only person that we've interviewed that have actually seen Jackie Moms Mabley.
You saw Moms Mabley?
Huh?
I got to stop. I don't mean to interrupt your story, but go ahead. I'll ask you at the end. Go ahead.
So I said, wow, man, I got to tell my brother this, because not only have I seen Jackie Moms Mabley, I've probably seen her well over 20 times.
Wow.
And it was kind of crazy because when you ask me, how did I begin my career started at the world famous Apollo Theater, where I'm now curator of comedy for the past 6 years. And it all started because my journey from Roselle, New Jersey, my uncle journeyed to Hollywood to sing lead for a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame singing group called the Platters. And my whenever he would come back to play the Apollo, my parents would go there. So, long after, my uncle's group, they disbanded and everything. My parents still had that itch for the Apollo Theater every Wednesday and Sunday. And of course, they would have to drag little Bobby along. And there I saw all these comedy performances prior to seeing the James Brown Review or the Motown Review or whoever was coming up the turnpike from Philly with Gamble and Huff. So I was already into the entertainment world when I was a little kid. No different than you, Eric, growing up, with your moms being, who, we just get it. It's what happens.
Right.
And, one thing led to another. And my mom worked at RCA Records in the royalty department. She did the royalties for Elvis and Sam Cooke. That's why when I saw Regina's movie about, in Miami, and they was talking to Sam Cooke about he has to get into publishing and stuff like that, I could really relate to all of that because my mom's actually was the one that sent that check to his estate. You know what I'm saying? So with all that being said, the comedy thing was already in me when, as Eric mentioned, it led to this place down in the industrial side of North New Jersey where I went down there with a friend of mine, Rocky Bryant, who's now on Broadway as the drummer in the musical Tina. He's also the drummer. He took Steve Ferrone's place with the Average White Band. So my man Rocky and we were on this journey all the way through elementary school, high school, college to get to where we are now. And with the it was February the 8th. I have it right here in my office. February the 8th, 1985 was the first time I ever put a comedian on the stage. And he was my next door neighbor who was trying to do comedy. I put him on stage at this show because he always used to go over to New York to like catch a rising star and places like that. And you had to like wait in line. Even Chris Rock and these guys back in these days, you would have to it was like potluck.
It was a lottery.
People
You had to
getting
get a
on
number.
stage, only brothers getting on stage was Michael Winslow, Jimmy J.J. Walker, and Mario Joyner. You hear what I'm saying to you? Everybody else, it was whatever it was. So now in Newark, I decided that Rocky and I were going to start a comedy and jazz situation. And one thing led to another. And then I got a job at Def Jam Records. I was already doing this underground comedy thing. I was the DJ. Everything you saw Kid Capri do on Def Comedy Jam, this is what I was doing at this place called Terminal D that led me to another place called Club 88, which led me to another place called the Peppermint. And that was really the bridge. The Peppermint was the bridge to Times Square and taping Def Comedy Jam. And the rest is history.
So to understand, the Peppermint Lounge was a bar owned by a gentleman by the name of Mr. Howard in Orange, New Jersey, and it was one of the main watering holes, one of the few Black-owned bars in the Essex County, maybe Union County area, right, Bob?
Yes, sir.
And so we would go there. He was a big supporter of my father, my uncle. Here in our area, my father and my uncle were active, as were a lot of our parents were, in the civil rights and the uprising. People also called the riots in the late 60s in Newark. And so this gentleman was a big supporter of my father and my dad's and my uncle. And we would go by there with him sometimes. And so that's how, when we became of age, would we'd go hang at the Peppermint. And he grew with it. He built it up. He bought the place next door where Bob brought the comedy in, which was a car dealership, made it a big ballroom. And he was really a successful Black man, I mean, he wasn't a high CEO, but he had a head for business, and he was, regular folk. Mr. Howard was a good guy, but it was an example of in the neighborhood, working class Black businessman who saved his money and did the right thing with it,
Yeah.
And so that's how Bob.
And I must say, just to echo what you're saying, I really never forget how I ended up at the Peppermint was based on. I had a lot of success when I left Terminal D. I took Bill Bellamy out of Terminal D with me, and we went up to Club 88 in East Orange. And one night, one Thursday, I had like over 200 people waiting outside to get into, for our show, and the doors was locked. I didn't know that they was renovating the place. No one had told me. And we had to make a decision because we were rocking. The momentum was there.
Mm.
And I had taken on this job at Def Jam, and this is we was beginning, the whole, Def Comedy Jam. We had already taped it even, but it hadn't aired yet,
Well,
so
wait, just go
everything.
back a split second. What was your role at Def Jam when you first started?
My role at Def Jam?
Yeah.
My role at Def Jam, when I first started at Def Jam, I took a job as assistant to the president.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, I took a job as assistant to the president, and that all came about because I had started, after graduating from Seton Hall University. I actually took a job in the mailroom where my mom worked at RCA Records. I was working in the mailroom, and because I had had so much experience I had my own radio show, FM radio show. I
Seton
guess,
Hall, right? When you were at
yes,
Seton Hall,
yeah. I guess you would say I must have been 20 years old, 19, 20 years old. And I had that show for maybe 3 years through the summer and everything. It was very, very popular. I mean,
Yeah, you
it's
guys
popular.
they were jamming for a minute.
Yeah,
I
it was
remember hearing
Friday
that's
Night
how I heard
Jam.
about
Friday
that.
Night Jam. It was very, very popular. It was as popular as the commercial stations. It really was during that time slot on
You playing
Friday
hip
night.
hop or?
No, I was playing everything. I was playing everything from Weather Report and Gil Scott-Heron to Funkadelic and the Delphonics with some Steely Dan. It was all over the place.
Predated hip hop, basically, what
Yeah,
you're trying to say.
yeah. It was all that. I was playing everything that hip hop sampled.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
But even those was the early years of the Force MDs and people like that. I was breaking music from Slave and Mary Jane Girls, all that type of stuff. We was having a lot of fun. And, just one thing really led to another. And I mean, I took this job, and then I got into the corporate world for a minute, but it felt like I was on a plantation. I went from I was wearing a tie, going to Livingston Mall every weekend to make sure I had a new shirt and tie and stuff, but I wasn't making but $15,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I started at Def Jam at 22.5 wearing a t-shirt and jeans. You know what I'm saying? It was crazy.
You remember when that was a good salary?
Yeah, and it was a great salary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But was a greater salary is within 2 years I went to 52. You know what I mean? Because I was there making a difference. I wasn't just there for the glamour and glitz of the job.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, one thing really led to another. And it's so much to it because I definitely did my grind. So I started promoting jazz in clubs and stuff. And Gregory Hines, someone in Gregory Hines's backup singers, knew what I was doing because her husband was a bass player in one of the bands that I used to book. Okay. And this lady called me trying to get one of her artists. She was a manager of an artist who was signed to Columbia Records to play in this club that I was booking. And I didn't have any openings, but I knew of a festival that was going on in Ossining, New York. And I was putting Bill Bellamy on it as a comedian. And I believe Lonnie Liston Smith might have been the headliner. And I found a way to get her artist on this show, never knowing that she worked at Def Jam. When I found out she worked at Def Jam, I called her to see if I can't get Bill on some of the shows with Public Enemy or LL or whatever the case may be. And she told me that she had just gotten a promotion to president and she was looking for an assistant. And I was like, yo, I'm that dude. And she was like, she's thinking I'm some young jazz cat wearing schoolboys and suits and stuff. And the whole thing flipped. And next thing you know, a couple years later, here goes Def Comedy Jam, and we're off to the races.
Wow.
Right. So you were talking about the comedy scene for Black comedians prior to Def Jam, which seems like it was a perfect storm. But what the Peppermint and all those kind of places existed because There was no open door in Manhattan, or it was just a lot of new talent?
It was a little bit of whatever. I mean, call it the Chitlin circuit if you want,
Hmm.
but you had the mainstream clubs that wasn't really allowing us, like I said, unless you waited online to get on at the end and maybe sweep up. You know what I mean? So we gave people an opportunity. Even you had the Uptown Comedy Club in Harlem that they had a place on Sundays, but their comedians, other than Sunday, unless they might have got a booking at some college or whatever, they didn't have a place. So that's what Terminal D did. Terminal D gave these comedians an opportunity to have a workout spot and make a couple dollars. And then, they started coming out the woodworks. Eric will tell you.
Yeah.
And it just built into a situation. And then I opened up the door and started traveling around. That's how, like right now I'm on the road or just finished on the road, doing this whole thing over because the narrative has changed. It's a good time to bring the nice fresh, I'm not talking about Instagram, how many followers you have, cats. I'm talking about the real joints, because like there's a whole lineup of fresh people who at one time, those fresh people was like Bill Bellamy, Dion Cole, Cedric the Entertainer, JB Smooth, DL Hughley, Chris Tucker, Dave Chappelle, Craig Robinson. All of these people was like up and coming. You dig what I'm saying? And Cheryl Underwood drove from California to Orange, New Jersey to the Peppermint just to
Wow.
perform so I could get her
Wow.
and put her on Def Jam. You'll
Wow.
see a lot of different shows that, talk about they were who they were, about, behind this, all these comedians. We started the shit at the end of the
Yeah.
day. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, we started the shit.
Yeah, Mike, I was going to say, yeah, that was a good point, because there was no real black circuit for comedians on a regular. I mean, you mentioned the Chitlin circuit, Bob, but as I think back on it, in terms of a regular comedy circuit where black comedians were had the opportunity to regularly get up and regularly, there might have been places throughout the country, people have clubs and stuff like that, but not like a whole, because it started really a real resurgence of black comedy. I mean, that and then rolling into the Def Jam, and just I mean, if we look at the waves of comedians that came across, because it was, say, let's go from Richard to Eddie to Chris and maybe Martin,
Yeah.
and that was the lineage. But after, once Def Comedy Jam came, it was just like waves of, you had classes of black comedians that were
But
coming out.
here's the thing. Here's the other part of me, though, as opposed to, like, I stay in my lane, basically. I try to be a trendsetter as opposed to following what the next person's doing. And at the same time, just like how we did at Def Jam, all of our artists were different, but they were all platinum.
Right.
That's what I do with the comedians. Like, you had the show Comic View that was a weekly, it was on every day. So
Right.
you had to make sure, like, it watered down the type of talent that hit that stage, as opposed to with Def Comedy Jam. My guys, I just mentioned those names. They all turned into household names.
Right.
I didn't even mention Ricky Smiley or Tracy Morgan. You know what I mean? Mike Epps. You know what I mean? Everybody knows these guys and girls. And that's just, even what I'm doing now, it has to be something where I can see you become a TV star or a talk show host or a film star. I mean, that's what it is. My people have become Academy Award winners and Emmy
Yeah.
winners. That's what I look for, is that, and again, there's people that make people laugh and giggle and all that, but that's not what I want. To put together a show where, them shows where it's so funny that you ball over in laughter and you got to catch your breath, and then you catch your breath and then somebody say something again and then you go back down, and you're doing that for 4 comedians in a row.
Right.
That's a Bob Sumner show.
Yeah.
I love it. But so just to go back, I mean, we'll definitely talk about what you're up to now, but I'm curious, as a big comedy buff.
Eric saw one the other day. What I'm up to now. Eric saw one the other day. He saw one the other day.
Oh yeah, a young lady that
Yeah,
really
yeah.
she put it out there.
So
Yeah.
Mhm.
No,
Go
but
ahead.
the seeds of Def Comedy, like what year did Def Comedy Jam start? I'm just
Well,
curious.
it actually, I planted the seed on August the 5th, 1991. Okay, that was my first showcase. I can remember it like it was yesterday. If you care to hear what it was all about, I had gotten a call from this comedy duo who came out of Houston, Texas. They were called Arsenal and Mitchell. All right. And
Those are my boys.
the sidebar to
Hilarious.
Mitchell, the
Clean too.
sidebar to Mitchell, and Eric don't even know this. I don't know if you follow sports, but the just this year, the national championship was Alabama against Georgia.
Right.
And Georgia defeated Alabama. And there was a freshman, number 5, who caught the go-ahead touchdown for Georgia, right? His name is A.D. Mitchell. That's Mitchell from Arsenal and Mitchell's son, Eric.
Wow. So
Yeah.
which one was Mitchell? The bigger brother was Mitchell, and Arsenal was the thinner brother, right?
Yeah, Mitchell was the bigger one. Yeah.
Funny.
So anyway, so Mitchell and them, they had this young lady named Adele Givens call me because she wanted to come to New York, right? So they said that I was the guy that she needed to check for, right? So Adele came to New York and lit it up. Okay, lit it up. And now I'm getting ready to start work on Def Comedy Jam. But remember, at this time, I'm assistant to the president. So I have to get things set up for, in Atlanta, we're going down to the Jack the Rapper convention. Okay.
Jack the Rapper. Damn.
So we're
That's,
putting,
for those that don't know, sort of like Freaknik, but with records.
okay.
And it was a good networking too, wasn't it? I never went to Jack the Rapper, but I understand it was very good networking. I mean,
it was all between Jack the Rapper and rest in peace Sidney Miller. There was BRE in New Orleans.
Right.
You had Jack the Rapper and BRE. So anyway, I have to set up everything for the record company for our presentations and stuff, right? So I had asked Adele because now I'm getting ready to identify these certain cities that I want to go to put together this Def Comedy Jam pilot. Okay. I'm getting ready to do 2 shows. I already know people from what I'm doing in Newark and in New York, but now I want to branch out. So I know that I want to go to DC. I want to go to DC. I want to go to Chicago, right? I know I want to go to these 2 spots. And I want to go to Atlanta, right? Those 2. And then I know I have to end up at the Comedy Act Theater in LA, as well as, again, what I'm doing in New York. That's going to make me put this show together. Plus, I had already built a relationship with the people from Showtime at the Apollo. So comedians like Ted Carpenter and Steve Harvey and Bill Bellamy, they were in that rotation. And my man Chuck Sutton, like everything was all coming together. All right, everything was coming together. But now I want to go to Chicago, so I'm going to call Adele. All right. So this is why I say August the 5th, 1991 is when we started. Because when I called Adele, I asked her, who can set up a showcase for me in Chicago? And she said, I should call. She gave me her friend Bernie's number. Okay. So I called Bernie and I asked him, I said, listen, Adele gave me your number and I want to put together this showcase in Chicago, but I have to go to Atlanta first. He says, I have to go to Atlanta too. Wow. I said, well, where you going to be? He said, I'm going to be at the Comedy Act Theater in Atlanta. Now, I knew of the Comedy Act Theater in Los Angeles, but I never heard of one in Atlanta. Sure enough, he was in Atlanta. When I tell you, from all of the comedians that I had already seen at through the years of Terminal D and Club 88 because I hadn't even gone to the Peppermint yet. When I got home, I called Bill Bellamy. I said, Bill, I just saw the funniest comedian I ever saw in my life. And if you ever pick up Bernie Mac's audio book of, his first book, he talks about that night because his life changed that night. My life changed that night because he was the catalyst for everything else that I was putting together.
Yeah, we have that audio book on the channel, by the way.
I didn't even know about that till it was my birthday and somebody sent me that clip. And sure enough, everything that Bernie was saying, and it made me feel real good that he remembered where he came from. He remembered his start. Because a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't tell the truth.
Yeah.
And all I want them to do is tell the truth, Ruth. Go ahead, Ruth. Tell the truth.
Bernie was,
what I
Bernie,
mean?
Bernie was a good brother. Bernie was a good brother like that, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever met my boy Mike Ralph, the Cheryl Lee Ralph's little brother. Very good, like my best friend from Hampton. Went to Hampton with me, a little bit younger, but he was one of the poker players on the Bernie Mac show, and I would go to Friday nights. It was their tape night, but it was also their hangout night, little happy hour they would have it. And Bernie was really cool. He was like, he peeped after a while that, me and Mike were boys. You know how Bernie was. He's like, yeah, that's your boy, right? What's up, man? He said, this is my boy too, right here, big nigga. It's like, what, that's his name? Big nigga? Yeah. But he was just like, regular brother. Cool, real cool. Friday nights go over there. It was like a thing. And, Bernie had it like set up for people to just, that was like a kind of semi-normal thing sometimes. Some sets, they have a little set, people hanging out, having drinks afterwards every once in a while.
That's cool.
Yeah, to watch him in the early years, though, I mean, because I like to think, like Def Comedy Jam, for me, it was like a college. It was like every year, it was like a college. It was the class of 91. The class
Right,
of
that's what I was saying. You had different classes,
It was really, and then I pretty much schooled them on how to tour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The whole layout of how to tour with the road manager and settlements and, all that type of stuff. It was very edutaining.
Not only is there a documentary in that, but there's also a mini series in that. Really, I mean, from a narrative. You know what I mean, Mike? I mean, I don't know if you could see it, but I
mean, they've done it. With the Caucasian comedians.
Sure.
With the Comedy Store comics have had a mini series. Why not?
Everybody has talked about everything, and even like we put together we started a documentary on my run, putting stuff together. But there's so many different ways to like my life. I was the other day I was thinking about Straight Outta Compton. And when it opens up with Dr. Dre being in his room with Everybody Loves the Sunshine playing and all that, that was me at all times. I was a dreamer. Like everything that I'm doing right now is all part of the plan, and it goes all the way back to I was carjacked December 14th, 2005 on a 12-degree night. You know what I mean? And all of that was all part of this journey that I'm on, that now when I say, I'm looking at 25, I'm right here, I'm looking at like 30 names on this thing right here. And these are all the next generation of superstars. Not everybody else who I've seen. This is the 30 out of 700 that I know. I really, it's a formula. And we just got to see where it goes this time around, because the narrative has changed. It's a new day since March 2020. I've lost 60 plus people. Wow. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when I tell you I was in denial, I was depressed. I mean, for a minute, man, I was in a corner, and then I listened to Shannon Sharp and JB Smoove. And then I listened to Chris Tucker and T.I., and they were talking about, can the golden age come back, and they're talking about my years. And I'm thinking about my formula that you didn't see because we didn't have social media. But I said, damn, I could show you better than I could tell you. So I took a page out of this Stevie Wonder album called Songs in the Key of Life. It was a song on there called Have a Talk with God. All right. That's what I did. I had a talk with God, and he told me it's time for you to get back out here and do what you did before. You know what I mean? Because he's not done with you. And you have to understand that, you know, in those years that we started, you had the Bulls, you had the Knicks, you had the Sixers, you had that movement going on. And then after that, you had the Lakers and all this stuff happening, right? But with comedy, everything's been recycled without realizing that now you have the Ja Morants and what have you. So why can't the same thing happen in comedy? Why stay stuck in the 90s or the early 2000s? So with that talk that I had with God, it has enabled me to go over here to this room called the Rugas. It's a Black-owned spot, okay, where I'm coming in there to try to lend my expertise to help them, as well as give comedians an opportunity to perform. Somebody came there from Los Angeles just to perform in front of me. And now I'm setting him up with meetings in LA. You dig what I'm saying to you?
Right.
It's all about us coming together and doing what we do.
I mean, that's what came to mind when you said, you know, why are we stuck in the 90s? It just seems like when the money got involved, I mean, people were doing it out of love and for the passion. There was no promise of anything beyond getting 5 minutes on stage. When the money came in, now we're subject to validation, and who has the money? It's white folks, you know. Right. So of course we're stuck with the same 5 movie stars that we had since 1995, you know, and we celebrate them, of course, but you know, who's planting the seeds? But to go back, before we get into what's happening now and how we can build this continuum, I'm just curious, was there a directive to start Def Comedy Jam, or was it just you being that close to the president of the company that allowed that show to happen? Like, because the mythology is Russell Simmons was at a club one night at the Comedy Act Theater in LA, and he said, if I could put this on TV, I'll be rich, or whatever like that. You know, like what was the initial spark that got that TV thing happening?
Russell's that type of businessman where he would do something like that, but I don't think that.
I don't even know. I mean, Russell has gone on record to say that without me, there wouldn't have been none of the. Well, maybe even if they started again, it's a formula that I have, and all I used was a formula to make that thing work. And the way it happened more than anything else is Russell had partnered with Stan Lathan to start a film and television company, and they tried to do a comedy, some type of comedy show. Ironically, they shot it in the same space at the Apollo that I have this a monthly Apollo Comedy Club series, and it was called the New Music Report with Ellen Cleghorn, who went on to play on SNL with a comedian named Dougie Doug and MC Search.
Right. They tried to do it without you, and the shit was whack. That's right. I forgot it was whack.
They did that. That was before me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then they had to get Bob.
But that was before me, to the point where they didn't even know what I was doing in New Jersey at this time. Right. I was just doing my job as assistant to the president. Okay. So when that show kind of went left, then it became, what are we going to do next? And that's when Carmen, who was the president, kind of told them what I did. And then they came and saw what I was doing and stuff, and was like, wow, Bob, could you like really do this? And I was like, well, watch. And then I took, they had some HBO execs, because they had to like prove to the HBO execs that Black comedy was like, besides the Comedy Act Theater in LA, it was all over. And I took these execs up to the Uptown Comedy Club, and they was like really bugging because the place was like, it was like in an uproar. Eric would tell you how it used to be, but then it came back to, okay, let's see who y'all can put together. And then I did a showcase, and I featured Bernie Mac, Adele Gibbons, Chris Rock was even on the showcase. It's a trip because the dude who filmed it stopped at Brothers Barbecue in Newark, right, to get some barbecue on the way home, and somebody broke it too.
Stole the footage.
Took his equipment and took that tape.
Oh
Took
my
that
God.
tape. To this day, we still talk about how much that tape is worth. You had Bernie Mac, Bill Bellamy, Chris Rock, all at the, and Monteria Ivy from the Uptown was the
Rest
host.
in peace.
It was a great night, and that was really the beginning of what was two shows became 104. I shot 104.
104 episodes. Well, just for full disclosure, I mean, I went to NYU, so I was in New York. That's how me and Eric know one another. And I did a documentary when I was a junior at NYU on Chris Rock. So
Yeah.
I was in the loop. It's on YouTube. It's on our channel, actually. I should say it that way.
I was gonna say, yeah.
But
do you know the first day that my first day at Def Jam Recordings, because we was right there on Broadway, 652 Broadway, right off of Houston. We was right there. And
right
my
up the street
first
from us.
day,
Drop Squad was right down the street.
Yeah, I would walk through Washington Park. I would get off the path right there. What's that, 8th, 9th, right there. And I would come through there, and my first day, right? Because there used to be days when I would just bump into Nipsey Russell, like all the time, right?
Wow.
So this particular day, I didn't see Nipsey, but I was walking through the park, and it was a camera there. My first day at Def Jam. Mm-hmm. Some people was there with a camera, and they were like, they stopped me, and I'm on my way to work. I'm all happy and shit. They said, "Do you like music?" I said, "Yes, I love music." They said, "What kind of music do you like?" And I said, "I'm a funketeer." Right? I told them I'm a funketeer, right? So they said, "Do you have a couple minutes?" I said, "Well, where are you from?" Know what they told me? We're from MTV.
Wow.
What?
So here I am. I'm on the grind. Now I got to make a decision. Then I said, this is music involved. I'm getting ready at Def Jam. I know I got the job. I'm not going to get fired if I'm a little late, whatever the case may be, right? And they wanted to talk to me about my music and why I like it and stuff. So I'm being real artistic with this thing. I said, I want to make this shit really cool. Know what I did? Remember those monkey bars?
Mm-hmm.
Remember those monkey bars in the playground, right?
Yeah.
I climbed up on the monkey bars, and I had them shoot me while I'm talking to them down. It was funky as hell, man. That was my first day at Def Jam.
That's wild.
That was March 7th. That was like March 7th, 89, something like that.
Okay, all right. So yeah, November 89. That's when I met Chris, and then I met Eric in 1990 when I was working on some stuff.
When I first started at Def Jam, you know what the record we was working?
What?
Fight the Power.
Oh wow. Okay. Oh, wow, heyday.
That's crazy.
Then we came right after that. We Flav went and did his solo effort called 911 is a joke.
911 is a joke.
That was a good day. Man, them days was crazy.
Those are the best times. And so I had to go to all the comedy clubs. So I saw Bill Bellamy when he had the suit.
Bill used to rock the suit and the way.
I was the only comedian that would wear a suit. It was crazy.
That's the thing. And that was the weirdest part when all of a sudden the kings of comedy, everybody was wearing suits. And I was like, wow, man, Bill sure was before his time with that. Right.
Yeah, because that wasn't Steve Harvey's stilo.
No, they wasn't wearing suits, not like They
when he
was
hosting, remember he was hosting Showtime at the Apollo, the actual talent show night.
Look at Bernie on his second Def Jam performance with the jeans, with his spray paint, with his face. But what happened was Bill was so sharp when we hit the road. because we went on tour and Bill had them joints and then Bernie got them joints and that was it. They was like, they was clean like that. Those was the two. And then it just followed suit after that.
You know what the interesting thing to me, Mike, is about with Bob and I was just and to hear the seed that whet your appetite as a kid. I mean, you know, we're around the same age, right? We are the same age. And you said you saw Mom's Mabley. I'm like, damn. I mean, just realizing now, you know, in our adulthood, really what that means in terms of witnessing a witness to history, you know?
Yeah.
Witness.
I mean, I saw
during the course of our life, you know. I mean, how many people could say our age could say you saw Mom's Mabley, and the fact that your uncle was in the business, that's where the seed come from, you know. Like you said, my mom.
But we talk about Arthur and Mitchell, okay? Before, and then I mentioned Nipsey Russell, right?
Yeah,
I saw Slappy White and Nipsey Russell as a duo.
Right.
Wow. They were a duo.
Man,
okay.
You're old, nigga.
Yeah.
You're old.
I saw Godfrey Cambridge. I saw George Kirby. Okay. I saw a Pygmy Markham.
Damn.
Okay. So, I mean, I lived at the Apollo. I mean, I really, really did. But Mom, she was like the queen of the house.
Yeah.
So you would see her all the time.
You know, you're going back when somebody says they saw Nipsey Russell and Slappy White when they were a duo, because that's really way back. You know, I remember that too. That they were actually a duo, Slappy White and Nipsey Russell.
I'm talking pre-match game.
Pre-match game.
That's wild. No, but 89, we'll get into what you're up to next, but I just wanted to throw some names at you, Bob. Who was I talking to comedy wise in 89? Reggie McFadden. Okay.
You know Reggie?
Yeah, Reggie, yeah.
Reggie was part of my first tour with Bernie, Bill, and Adele and Reggie. That was my nucleus. And Reggie, I believe, is selling gold or diamonds or something in Africa.
Tanzania.
Somebody told me.
Wow.
Tanzania, yeah.
Yeah, that's Reggie McFadden, man. He was
selling gold in Tanzania.
He gave up the business completely.
God bless him. I know he's making money doing that.
Seemingly so. But shout out. I know he's watching. So Hugh Moore and Cool Bubba Ice. Those were the other two.
Yeah, Hugh Moore is one of the dopest comedy writers I've ever met. And I'm talking about going all the way back, because he had this thing that I never forget, this little sketch where he was Grandpastor Flash, right? Grandpastor Flash from the Baptist Church. You know, that was really, he'd be cutting up Jesus. He was dope.
Brick City's finest. This is a Brick City.
Hugh Moore, and then there's Cool Bubba. From what I can see, he's still Cool Bubba, just hilarious in his own world. Like,
who else? I'm trying to pull some names out of the ether.
Derek
Fox.
That's Ether. Somebody just mentioned Derek's name recently. Or was it you on that?
We were talking about him on the Clubhouse the other day.
Is that what it was? Or I thought it was on that DVD you just pulled up. Wasn't Derek's name mentioned?
Oh yeah, but Mike did mention. Yeah, he is on that part of that DVD.
Oh, is he in this?
I think you mentioned.
I think so.
Yes, yeah. First disc one, show one.
Yeah, Derek and Hamburger came as a package a lot of times. It seemed like
right
back in the day.
It seemed like Martin owes Derek a check, because Derek was the
everybody
first person
says that. Everybody, that's a very that's so everybody knows that, it seems.
They both like Shaniqua characters. But Derek did his on the Uptown Comedy Club show. Or not I'm sorry, the Apollo Comedy Hour.
Right.
So that's why he owes him a check?
I'm just saying, in some ways. In some ways.
Why?
Yeah, they both had characters that were very similar.
Similar to what? Each other?
He bit. All right, I'm gonna say it. Let me solo myself here.
Make it plain, brother.
Martin Lawrence bit Derek Fox's Shaniqua routine.
From seeing it on the Apollo Comedy Hour?
They had it at the same time. So,
but it came from seeing it at the Apollo Comedy Hour?
I can't go any further. I'm just saying you put them side by side. It's pretty close.
Okay.
You saying it's circumstantial evidence, Bob?
I mean, I don't know, because so if we go and we say who bit Milton Berle, who bit Flip Wilson? I don't know. I mean, is it because they cross-dressed?
You don't see it.
Is
okay.
it?
That's fair.
I mean, and that's when when we start.
I don't see what.
When people get into copyright stuff, and just ask Art Buchwald, that's when you get down to details, right? I suppose. But I mean, there are some similarities. That's what some people point to that know the story. Like the whole thing is about exposure, right? Mike, you're one of the few people who have seen it. When they put
Bobby
it side
Brown
by
would
side,
go to
some
the
people might
Apollo
think that.
and go to amateur night and steal dance steps.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you will hear people's jokes, sound just like somebody else's joke. I mean, this thing been going on for years. So, when people claim that, somebody took something from them, create something else.
True.
Create another character.
And it is possible for people to come up with the same idea. People talk about great inventions in history. Someone was working on something similar to whatever version of that invention became popular and successful. So,
all right. I'm gonna need tape. People watching this, we got 1 million subscribers.
Let people decide for themselves.
Somebody got episodes of Apollo Comedy Hour.
But that would depend when it was seen. If Martin saw, Derek do the bid,
put up that impression and let people judge for themselves.
So but what you're saying is he watched the show and said, I'm gonna make a character like that. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying I haven't seen the tape myself in over 30 years. But if anybody has a tape, get it to me. We'll put it up. We'll let the people decide.
Pretty cool that we're still talking about it after 30 years.
Yeah, right. Right. That's like the play.
Oh God.
That play from a great sports event that everybody hasn't, still debating.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah, right. I think that also too the kind of stature of both of those guys. They're similar physical types. Similar height, similar kind of. They would be the same type that if you were bringing in a casting, you would bring their type. They would be the same type auditioning for the same type of role. So I mean, sans the similarities of both characters beginning with the S and some of the mannerisms. I mean, but who's to say,
Well, flip it around. What makes Martin so magical? Creation. Like, I mean, he's clearly Hall of Fame comedy act. When you first saw Martin, what was it that Drew made you say, I need to make him the host?
Robin wasn't available.
Okay.
I didn't mean to say it like that, but
that's the truth.
But at the end of the day,
sometimes people get the slot that way.
Well, at the end of the day, when the seed was planted to do this show, Robin was still here.
Yeah.
But we were nowhere near ready to, do everything. And then at that time in Living Color and what was it? In Living Color and House Party, they were the they were like the main shows that was popping. And with the comedians, stand-up comedians involved in this, that, and the other. And Bebe's Kids was coming out too at the time, around that time. And they had, I believe it was a tribute to Robin. And they had like all of those guys, including Mooney, but you had Tommy and all them guys, Damon, they all did stand-up comedy. So they were going to all be on this show, along with the dude from House Party, right? Who was kind of like the opening act type, earlier in the show. and he was perfect for what Def Comedy Jam was going to be. You know, at the same time, I believe HBO, Fox, or somebody, they was looking for a vehicle for him. So Tapa
Right.
Carew was involved at the time, and Russell and Stan got together with their people, and Martin Lawrence was the host.
He was
You
also
know,
in a shooting. I think
and
around that time we were also in the process of shooting Do the Right Thing, and Martin, landed one of those roles.
yeah, he was. Yeah, he
You
had
know,
already came off of that.
right,
That was he had just come off. All of that was all like he was like that next dude up.
right, right.
So, but the thing is, you still had to deliver.
That's right.
Boy, did he deliver.
Big time,
You know
big
what I
time.
mean? I mean, it was magical. It was
Yep.
magical. It's still magical when I was at the Will and Martin was doing a Q&A at the Apollo, same night that I do the Apollo Comedy Club. So they were in the main room doing the Q&A, and somebody screamed, "Is Def Comedy Jam coming back?" The whole place went crazy.
Right.
You know, just with the whole thought of that. And then Martin made a comment, is like, "Is Big Bird here?" Because when we did the show one time, this young lady was dressed like she was Big Bird in a yellow dress. And the crazy part is my softball game. I have a celebrity softball game every August, right, for the American Cancer Society. And this young lady, before the pandemic, she came to the game with a bag, right? And she took the dress, the outfit.
No.
She still had it. She said, look what I have. I was like, wow, you're the one from back in 1993.
Wow.
Ain't that something?
Yo, I bet you the right time is right now if Martin do a Def Jam reboot. Martin
Well,
being the host.
he's doing, they got their little tours and stuff. But the truth of the matter is, and this is when you talk about what's going on now type things. For me, Def Comedy Jam was all about the next generation of rising stars. And that's why I never want to go, back to, they done did their thing. And again, when you talk about money and people involved and stuff, I can name, out of all of the comedians that did Def Comedy Jam over the years, there's only one who's been like quite successful that still have the same management. Only one. Ain't that something?
And are they still successful now that they've changed management, or was it? You said you only one that still has the same management. Out of all the others that have changed managers, are their careers?
Well, because this is what who knows? Because what happens is once you make it, the people who you rolled with, for the most part, they're no longer with you. You know, and a lot of times you make that decision because somebody, instead of keeping your boy with you, even if your boy going to be in another capacity, okay, that's one of the things I could say in terms of keeping your boy. I know someone who's kept his boy around too. You know what I mean? You do have that with some people, but I'm talking about in terms of somebody who's really doing your day-to-day dealings and stuff like that. There's only one out of everybody from 1992 to today. Well, I should say 1991. And that impresses me. That impresses me with the one.
With the one, yeah. I mean, people don't do it. The real, for us, as for our purposes as Black people, from my perspective in the business, people don't bring their friends along. The whole thing about getting to the next level, and that person that's higher up or can take you to that next level, say, okay, you got to ditch the person you've been with, sign with me. But what they're supposed to do is say, yeah, maybe my person can't get me to that next level. My boy can't be my manager because you got all the hookups. But yo, this is how we're going to do it. You stay right here with me, learn everything that we need to learn so we can flip this. And then my production company and shoot off with that, or do whatever.
There you go. That's what I love. That's what I loved about Mr. Gordy's model.
Right.
Think about Mr. Gordy's model back in 1959.
Absolutely.
He kept his family and friends around, but made sure that they knew how to do the jobs. If they had to go to school to learn that position, that's what it was going to be. That's how you do it.
That's how
And
you
if
build an empire.
even when you look at law firms, all they do is add the name. You don't run with it. You become part of the conglomerate.
Right. That's right.
You know, that's how you do it.
Get your name on a letter, get to become a partner. That's it.
Was that something that you noticed? I mean, the show was an immediate hit. Were people catching the vapor, so to speak, very early?
All day, every day. Oh, what? Man, yo, I remember one day this one dude was disrupting the whole vibe of everything to the point where I had to call a meeting. Like, yo, what's up, man? You are like really going bananas right now. And he said he didn't want to fuck with us no more because he had this movie coming out and this, that, and the other, and he left. And that movie came and went. It'd be like that.
I could guess, but I don't want to blow it up.
I remember, man. Yeah, right. I remember one comedian who's like a major star right now. The promoter actually is no longer with us. And I so wish that promoter was still here to see how this comedian has become like one of the top comedians in the world. You know what I mean? Because some people, there were some people that wanted to see the comedian who was shucking and jiving as opposed to that comedian who actually had a point of view. Comedy is interesting. That's why I think that the best comedian is the comedian that can work any room. That's a comedian. Other than that, you're a comic. When you can't fit inside the whole box, when you can't, and you nervous and then you see somebody, ain't nothing worse than watching somebody blame it on the room than somebody follow him and kill it.
And kill the room. But that's really about the person's frame of reference, right? The broader your knowledge about things in life, or the more things you have to talk about, and you can comment on, one way or another. I mean, comedically or another. What
else is a trip? When you go into a room, and I never forget, I'm in Sherman Oaks, I guess it was, and it might have been 12 people in this 55, 60 seater, spread it around. And then it's the comedians. But remember, you're in California, so you don't know who's in this room. Okay? Me being one of them. I want to see what's going on. So I don't need you to go up there and just be an embarrassment to the establishment, saying stuff like, security did a great job keeping people out of here, and having those type of jokes, because that shit ain't really funny, because we're here, you know what I mean, and we want to see you. But in this room this particular night was Mekhi Phifer, myself, Robbie Reed. Okay, this is just 3 of the people. You have to treat a room of 12 just like it's 1,200. People don't get that part. Something could have popped off for whoever these comedians are on stage. I don't know, maybe something did. I can't go back to that, but I'm just saying, just in terms of, you have to be prepared and just know how to do this or not.
I mean, to me, it's like people either want it or they don't want it, and it's like they say in acting, there are no small parts, only small actors, which is kind of bullshit. There's small parts, but it's what you do with that part. That's really what that phrase means, and what that mentality means. It's what you're doing with the opportunity, getting the opportunity. I got a job coming up too. It's only like a line or two, but it's an opportunity to be on set. It's an opportunity to potentially create something else. So anything that gets you in behind that gate, where them gatekeepers are, You got to take advantage of that shit.
I'm sitting over here laughing because all you got to do is say dynamite.
Yeah, well, all money ain't good money sometimes.
That was crazy, right? It was like, what? Still living off of it.
Yeah, God bless him. You know, John Amos really didn't agree too tough with it, but you know, another one from Jersey, East Orange.
Yes, sir. You know, he played a very instrumental part in what I was doing coming up because, like I said, I was on the grind, right? And I was talking to him at the Peppermint one night, and he said, "Why don't you come out? I'm artistic director at the Grant Avenue Community Center in Plainfield. Come on out there and see me. You know, we could talk about some things." And know what he did?
What's that?
He said he gonna pay me a couple dollars, and he handed me some flyers and posters, and I became his street team.
That's right.
Today, and I went to all of the barbershops and up on poles and stuff, and I felt like I was doing something in the entertainment business. For John Amos, are you kidding me?
Yep.
Bob, I mean, to bring it into the 21st century, and we know these things go in cycles. You know, how is it? I know because everything is sort of splintered now, we're not going to see necessarily the phenomenon of water cooler talk that came with the Def Comedy Jam. But what can we see?
You say that? What makes you say you won't?
I just feel like everything's in the Twitterverse.
Not if everybody. I call this back to basics.
Okay.
You know, it's just like when you talk about the reboots of these shows and stuff. All you got to do is refresh what's going on. Because when I look at Dave Chappelle, I was working with David when he was 18 years old, and he wasn't much different than he is now. Chris Tucker was 21. I'm here to tell you that you still have these young comedians out here that are like that can turn stuff into sitcoms in little films like Boys in the Hoods and stuff like that. That's what's lacking right now because everybody done got caught up into these Instagram social medians, I like to call them. You know, some of these guys be showcasing for me and people say, damn, he got all them followers, but he was terrible for them 10 minutes. And I say, what do you mean? He say, man, he's big on social media. I can't tell. You know what I mean? But you have promoters and stuff who's messing up the game by booking these people, thinking that all these people are going to come to the show. But you got to remember when these people have these big followers, these followers is from all over, not necessarily within that city that you're trying to book this show. And I mean, it's just, you know, when I think about how there hasn't been a big wave of comedians like what I did with the Def Jam. And it's only because I haven't been out there to do it like this. I've done other shows, you know, I've catered to what was asked, but this time around, I'm to the point where it's time for me to just put them out here. And when I tell you, you know, every time I look at this list here, I just play it all in my head. I'm like, damn, man, America and the world is getting ready to see next. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
I love it. Are there any shows that you're really paying close attention to right now in terms of this past year? There's been more Black TV developed. Who stands out to you as a star?
I don't pay attention to nothing besides what I'm paying attention to, and that's the underground grassroots. What I am paying attention to is some of these meetings that people want to take with me so I can turn them on to people. You know, I remember I had a conversation with Will Packer maybe 5-6 years ago, maybe even 7 years ago. And Will asked me who was next. And I said that I have a guy who's a combination of Bernie Mac and Robin Harris. And now everybody is starting to.
Who's that, homie? From East Orange?
Nah, man, it's my man. It's my man Marshall. He's
Okay.
hosting my show. I have a show Saturday. We're back. I've been like I do these little shows all over as much as I can. I do
Mhm.
these shows where people want the joy of laughter. And
Mhm.
I put Marshall in this position just like I had Bill Bellamy at the Peppermint. And then when Bill went to Hollywood, I replaced him with Mike Epps. I
Right.
always got to make sure that my host is tight. So Marshall, I had Marshall doing these shows, and then he started opening for Donnell Rollins, who's part of Team Chappelle.
Right.
And then during the pandemic, Marshall spent a lot of time out at David's camp, not doing any stand up, but just being around, soaking in, just being around. He had time, right? He finally got an opportunity to get on that stage, and I'm here to say on New Year's Eve, he was in Seattle opening up for Chappelle. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying?
Nice.
So this is the same guy who 7 years ago I told Will about.
Mhm.
You
Wow.
know, that's
Yeah.
what I do, man. I can't help doing what I do. You
Yeah.
know,
It takes about that much time for a comic to develop, right?
well, the thing is, when I see someone, it don't take that time for them to develop as much as when I see someone, I know that they have that thing. Even then, if they're already like, give this person a chance. Don't wait for, like, I look at Chad Boseman, rest
Mhm.
in peace. Do you remember when Chad played Jackie Robinson?
Yeah.
Nobody knew who Chad was.
I remember when he played. Well, I'm an actor, so I made note of it.
Yeah, but nobody knew who Chad was, as opposed to, why they got this new guy. But
Mhm.
then he became the it guy.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That's what they do. That's what they do, and it works for that casting director who takes that opportunity and that chance.
Mhm.
Mhm.
People got to take a chance. That's all I specialize in, is taking chances on
Right.
these folks, because I feel like they have it. I have a clubhouse now that goes on every Thursday from 2 to 5, where I identify comedians by what they're doing. And there's a young lady that's on there now that she came on. She lives in Nashville by way of Indonesia. And when I tell you that I know she has something, it's just a matter of when I can, like, get there to see her. And then next stop, Hollywood.
That's your gift.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's your gift. An eye for talent.
Yeah, it's been a great gift that I've been gifted. you know?
I love it.
Been doing it long enough to
Yeah.
recognize.
Yeah.
Eric, any final questions or thoughts? I really appreciate you taking the time, Bob,
No
to
problem,
be with
man.
us.
No
And
problem,
I
Mike.
hope that people will continue to follow you on Clubhouse and wherever. But any final questions?
No, I
Because
just
I can talk for hours. So
yeah. No,
I do want to say this, though. Can I say this to you? I kind of do remember the whole Martin Shanae thing.
right.
All right. And this is all that I would say. And that's why when you said the Apollo comedy hour
Mhm.
and all of that, I wouldn't think that that's where it would have come from. No way I think it would have come from. I used to be at Terminal D. Eric would tell you this. I left Terminal D because I got the feeling that they got enough out of me. You know what I mean? You could tell when the place is doing well now, we don't really need you no more. We're good. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm leaving. I left. The reason they were good was because they had met Derek and Bubba and all them, and they gonna keep this thing going. So, I'm gone. So one of the things they're gonna do is try to bring people back, because everybody is starting to come with me and Bill Bellamy. Everybody, even the people from Cosmos. Remember Cosmos on Thursdays, Eric?
Oh yeah,
All of
yeah.
that. Everybody, because we got a dance party afterwards upstairs, so you could get everything with us, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So now, as this is popping off, Martin Lawrence is coming to Terminal D.
Right.
Let's talk about it.
I didn't even know he came through there,
Okay.
but that
He
makes
came
sense.
to Terminal D,
And you were
and
already
one of
gone.
the things that was popular for them down at Terminal D was this thing that Derek would do called the dating game. Eric?
Oh, what it would be? Yeah, I
The
remember
dating
vaguely
game
remember
where
that talking.
where Derek would be Jim Lang. Remember Jim Lang, the host of the dating game, right? He would play Jim Lang dressed as
Sinead?
Shantae.
Shantae was the
Shantae.
character's name.
And then he would pick 3 guys out of the audience and do that thing. He did it the same night that they had Martin Lawrence there.
What? Oh,
And
wow.
I think that that's where they assume that it come from. That's my thought.
Okay. Well, somebody got tape. I just want to put them side by side
Of both
on
performances.
YouTube and let the audience
They
decide.
probably have tape. I think that it would be more advantageous if they have that underground tape than the television tape, to be honest. You know what I mean? Because
the
it
one
really
from-
shows, huh?
If the one from Terminal D, if there's one.
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
you're
some
talking
of that,
about?
because that really shows that it happened. Because you figure Martin came on in what, 93? Because he did a season of Def Jam before Martin came on.
Right.
But that second season of Def Jam, he was doing both shows, and that's why he didn't come back for the 3rd season.
Right. Well, we'll figure it out. That's a great mystery.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because like it's one of those things. It happens.
It does
You know?
happen. It does happen.
But it really
But
killed that
we're
room
talking
back
about it
then.
30 years from now.
Yeah.
You know, we'll be talking about it when we're 90.
That's one of those questions. Who shot JR?
Eric, where can people find you?
Oh, I can be found at Instagram, Eric Payne _freedom fighter is my Instagram. You could type in my information, Eric Payne at IMDb. Check out my page there. I could use a little traffic, as well as my Facebook, Eric Payne Facebook page. Also on YouTube, Off the Beaten Path, Eric Payne Off the Beaten Path. It's a little show that I'm working on. My sister created, where we interview collectors of Black memorabilia. And it's something we haven't seen done before. And it highlights Black collectors, and things that are critical to Black history. So
fantastic.
We're going to be coming to interview you guys too, as collectors of film and comedic articles and
You
stories.
see Dolomite up there?
What, behind you?
See that white hat up there?
Dolomite. The
See
original?
that black t-shirt?
Clown.
See the black
Wait,
t-shirt?
let me make it bigger. Hang on.
See the black t-shirt right here. It says grooving on a Sunday afternoon.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Right on top of that is the white hat.
Oh yeah.
That's Dolomite. Dolomite sent me that. That's him next to Al Addles. Al Addles sent me that figurine.
Wow.
And that's Magic Johnson with a Los Angeles Dodgers. You know, all that craziness. But that, what I wanted to also say is that grooving on a Sunday afternoon with Bob Sumner. All right. That's something that I have on Facebook every Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock to 6. I take you back to those days of when I was doing radio. And when I tell you that if you chime in, you're gonna be stuck, because the music that I give you is like it's butter, man. It's butter.
What are your handles? Where can people find you?
Well, I have an Instagram, bob.sumner. Bob.Sumner. Then I have a comedy page, Bob Sumner Comedy Spot. You know, those are like the main 2 spots. And then there's always Laff Mobb. People could follow, see what's going on at Laff Mobb, LAFFMOBB. And then, you know, I have a bunch of different shows going on throughout the East Coast. I would say I have a residency down at the City Winery in Philadelphia. I have a residency at Dutch's Restaurant inside the Trip Hotel downtown North, we do a thing called Jazz and Jokes.
Mhm.
And then Marshall Brandon hosts the Saturday night comedy show that we do in Willingboro with a hometown friend of mine, Jed Curtis Entertainment. That's where we spotlight comedians, as well as we have a showcase there. And then the other showcase is at Aruga's that we just kicked off in January. And that's a Black owned spot that I really love to
Yeah,
see
nice room.
what's going there. And then, like I said, I have the No Egos Clubhouse stand up showcase every Thursday from 2 to 5 Eastern. And that's popping off. And I got a couple things coming up. I have a podcast that I'll be doing very soon, as well as a couple TV projects, and just continuing to try to spread the joy of laughter with what I believe to be the next rising stars in comedy.
Yeah, there you go,
I
bro.
love it. I love it.
Mhm.
There you go. Bob Sumner. You know.
Thank you, Bob. That was great.
No preservatives.